and welcome to the Love How Deep podcast with Brian and Heather Mayer. Our purpose is to equip married couples like you with resources that rely on the transformative power of God's Word to strengthen your relationship.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are here to do another episode, and I'm here next to my lovely wife, Heather. How are you today?
A little tired, but I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
glad that we can do this together.
Yeah, it's been a very tiring last couple of days because we have had your family here for the last week, and while it's been really good, sometimes you always feel like you got to be on when you have people in your house. Is that how you feel? That's how I feel.
I think so. As introverts, it's just, I don't really always get my introverted moments, I guess. And so it can make me feel a little bit more tired, for a little while longer. But I mean, it's been really good. We've enjoyed them so much, playing games and puzzles and watching movies and a lot of good food to eat.
That's right.
All good things.
Right.
All in the midst of, a crazy season for us right now, kind of personally.
Yeah, lots going on, lots with the podcast and the Love How Deep conference that we're putting on in a couple of weeks at our church.
Still have loose ends that we're trying to get tied up there.
Yeah.
And writing the newsletter and the blog.
That's right. But I do have to say, back to the puzzle real quick. I typically don't have, throughout my life, puzzles haven't really been my thing, but for some reason it was very enjoyable. I think it was just working on it with multiple people. And also what I've noticed with a puzzle is you really have to concentrate on what you're doing, and it kind of helps you kind of block everything else out, and you're just kind of there focusing on the puzzle, and you're there with family, and that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I remember when we were dating, one of us bought a puzzle, or maybe we bought one together. I don't know, but I came over to your house, and you and Kendra and I worked on a puzzle together. And just really enjoyed that. But I also do remember you saying, I don't really like puzzles too much, but I'll do one.
Right.
Just so that I guess we could kind of spend time together, which segues beautifully into
this episode.
One of the ways that we can stay connected in the midst of the busyness of life.
And that's what our episode is called today.
Exactly.
Yes. How couples can stay connected in the midst of the busyness.
Yes. And I think quality time is just one of the biggest key things that we need to do. We have to be so intentional about carving out time with each other, which, like I said, when we were dating, we did that. We wanted to spend time together, and we had your daughter as well. And so it's like, all right, what can the three of us do together to spend time together? And that would be enjoyable. So we worked on a puzzle, and it wasn't done in that night. I feel like, I don't know, it was sat on your table for a while, and whenever I would come over, we would take another crack at that puzzle.
Yeah, and that was at the time before I think they made anything that kind of rolls the puzzle up and you can take it away. I don't really remember that being a thing back then.
I don't know.
It was.
If it was, we didn't have it.
Right.
It just sat there, and we would slide it out of the way so that, we could sit at the table and eat.
Right. Yeah. But that was fun.
It was. And just thinking about quality time, you want to spend time together that actually means something to both parties. And it's not necessarily how much time, hours upon hours, as it is the quality of the time, the thing that you're doing together. Are you connecting with each other? Are you having good conversations? Or, are you sitting on the couch watching TV together, not even talking, not even looking at each other? Like, yeah, you're together, but there's not really a connection there. So that's right. A difference there to make sure that the time that you spend together is quality and not just like, well, we're together, we're watching a movie together or doing something else, where there's no relational contact, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, with your family being here for the past week, you and I were together in the same room for many, many hours.
Right.
But it wasn't really, a lot of times it wasn't good quality time because, again, we had other people around us, and, we've got to make sure that we're, being good hosts for them.
And and focusing on quality time with them.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a lot of quality time with our family, but it wasn't with each other so much.
Right.
I can remember the last few Christmases, we've gone to visit a lot of different family members from in Ohio, where you're from. And in between one visit and another visit, you and I would sneak away and go to a restaurant, even to just, 30, 45 minutes or whatever, just to have a little bit of time. We felt like we were being little sneaky teenagers going out on a little date that nobody knew about.
Right. And I guess if we have family listening to this, they've learned our little secret, but that's all right. That doesn't mean we're going to stop doing it, right?
No, it doesn't mean that at all, because we want to be with everyone else, but we also want to make sure that our relationship stays stronger, and that over that week's time, we don't look at each other like strangers, And it is funny. I want to share this with all of our listeners. Anytime we go to visit someone and we're going to be gone spending time with them for a week, or if someone's coming here for a week, one of us will look at the other one and say, "I'll see you in a week. Goodbye."
That's right. Yeah.
It's just kind of like a joke, because we know, we just don't.
That's right. We'll see each other in passing, and that's about it.
We will.
And one thing I was thinking about too, that we'll do on occasion when we're traveling to see, especially my family in Ohio and your sister in Kentucky, sometimes we will just drive halfway and get a hotel. And that's some good quality time with us, just hanging out in the evening at the hotel. And then we leisurely get up and, it's not rush.
It's not. And I think that's important, because so often we just rush around running errands and taking kids here, there, and everywhere, and doing things for our jobs, staying late, or, whatever, like going in early, whatever it is. The time that you spend with your spouse can be robbed, and it just takes each person being super intentional and saying, you know what, we're going to stay connected. I'm going to carve out some time. We're going to go on a date. We're going to put it on the calendar that we're going on a date this night, this time. This is us. No one else can interfere. And I think things like that are just so important. And things like that you did when you were dating. It's just that, once life sets in married life, that falls away. So prioritize your spouse. Your spouse is, with quality time. And I do want to mention that sometimes it can be hard to figure out, like, well, what do we want to do for a date tonight? I don't know. What do you want to do? I mean, if you're like us, we have that conversation all the time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher, a little recharge. So if you head over to Love How Deep website, we have a tab on there that gives you a lot of date night freebies, a lot of different ideas, different things to do, kind of, sets the stage for some good quality time that you can spend together. And I think they're really fun and engaging, and that's the whole point of this, to stay connected.
That's right. Yeah. Very good promo there. So, go to lovehowdeep.com and you'll find that there.
Yeah. And in the Bible, it says in Ecclesiastes 4:9-12, is that right? 9-12? 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. So if you're staying connected with each other, you're more likely to be able to help each other up.
That's right. Yeah, it's 4 verses, and that seemed like it was awfully short. So I think I see where you're going with that. So we're gonna say for now that's what it is. But yeah, I love what that says, because 2 are definitely better than 1.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. I've also heard it said, by yourself you can go faster, but together you can go further. Might be another way to say that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that. Well, let's talk about tip number 2, and that is communication. And it seems like communication is always part of a marriage relationship. It seems like no matter what we talk about, communication always is something that we should focus on. And, being open and honest obviously is the best way to go, of course. But I would say, practically speaking, you and I do a really good job at texting really quickly when we want to let each other know just something briefly. And I actually fell down upon that a few hours ago. I normally text and say, I'm on my way. And you called me, I guess pretty close to me being home, and said, "Hey, what's going on? Where are
You
you?"
okay? Like my mind goes to he's flipped the car on the side of the road or something. Like
Right.
what just happened?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so don't know what happened there, but 99% of the time I'm really good about saying I'm on my way, just so you know. But yeah, I messed that one up.
No,
But,
you're good. You're good.
but
I do
yeah.
want to jump in here about the texting. With communication being the key, you want to be careful about the things that you do say over text because you can't read emotion, you can't read body language, you can't read the facial features. You don't hear, the passion or the silliness or the whatever the feeling is in the words that that you're reading. And so often things can get misconstrued. So stay in communication over texting with things that are, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, what are you looking for, Heather?
Yes, innocuous.
Okay.
Is that the word
Just
that I would
simple,
use here?
innocent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
I
hey,
see
I'm
what
on my
you're
way
saying.
home. Hey, I'm going to go to the store. Do you need me to pick anything up that I'm not thinking of? Or, just things like that. Or even, of course, things like, hey, babe, I love you. You looked so good this morning when you got left for work or whatever. Like, you can absolutely do things like that. But listen, don't get into your big knockdown, drag out communicative issues
That's exactly right.
over the texting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I've made that mistake a few times in my life, and I'm trying to get better with that. So
Yeah, aren't we all?
Another way that we communicate, I think, very well is through sharing our calendars on our phones. And again, you may think, what? That's communication? Yeah, it is.
It is.
Because
Absolutely.
I might put something on there. Like actually tonight, I put that I wanted to print some things off for our Love How Deep marriage conference, and I shared it with you just so you would know and you would see it, and we both would kind of remind each other. So I think that's very helpful. It's helpful to put things that we've got to do as far as like places we've got to go and activities, but also I like to just throw something on there as like a reminder that, hey, if I forget this, maybe Heather will be like, hey, I saw you put this on the calendar.
Yeah, that actually works really well.
Yeah.
I mean, we at times we've had a wall calendar to put things on, but honestly we don't look at that as much as we look at the one on our phone. And here's a good example too about with the calendar sharing or whatever. If a friend says to me, hey, do y'all want to get together next Saturday night, let's go to dinner, the four of us, blah blah blah, I can immediately look at my calendar and see what's Brian doing, what am I doing, what do we already have going on. And so I can likely answer right then, yeah, we're free. Let me, let's plan this or whatever. And so it's because it's on the calendar. Everything that we share, that we do, is on our shared calendar,
Mm-hmm.
and it really makes life easy.
Yeah, right.
I guess as far as like planning and scheduling things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just another way to communicate that's not maybe using your words.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And a third thing that I wanted to make mention of that is something that we have as a resource that you don't have to use your vocal cords with. It's called the Love How Deep No Time Note. And it's just a one-page note. If you want to print it off and just have it on the countertop or, wherever by the nightstand, where you would put down just for the day, what are some needs that I have? What are maybe some needs that you have? What are some of the needs for the kids and the family today? Are there any other needs? And then, you just kind of wrap it up with, hey, here's one thing that I love about you, maybe one thing that I'll continue to work better upon. And I would just say, use this sparingly. I don't want you to rely on this and say, well, this is how we communicate from here on forward because we're just too busy for each other. But, if you've got a day where you're just extremely busy and you're rushing with the kids, or one of you's got to get out the door and you're not sure if you're going to be able to say everything that needs to be said, print this out and write down what you need to write down. And you'll find that in the show notes today. So at lovehowdeep.com, we'll put a link to this one in the show notes for you. And
I like that because if I have to leave work before you're even up, which would never happen. But if I did, I could leave this note on the counter to tell you what I need today. I need for you to go to the grocery store and buy some more coffee because that's important and we're out. And also, pick up my prescription or whatever. Those are my needs. And then,
maybe I need to pick up, a child or whatever, even though we don't have kids at home. But
right. It might be something like, cute little Susie Q will need to be taken to soccer today. If you could please take her, the time is at 3:30. These things that you just want to make sure that, you would maybe even discuss this if you were both up in the morning at the same time or whatever. But if you don't have that time to actually verbally talk with each other, you can leave these notes like this. I like that. And I kind of like that thing about the thing that I love about you.
Yeah.
Just kind of, brings it back to, hey, this is our marriage and it's important versus the stuff you do is important, but I love you even more and you're still more important to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of cool.
Right.
I like this.
It. And I even love what it says at the top. It says, "To my love, today we don't have time to talk and that will be remedied soon." Meaning that, yes, it's a little bit of a bind right now, but we're going to make sure that we make this a priority to communicate with each other.
Yeah, that's so true. So
and
good.
Yeah, and one of the, I guess, a Bible verse that probably goes a little bit with this, it's in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. It just says, "Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace." I love the part about being patient and bearing with one another because, through this busyness, if you see this note, maybe your first reaction might be, well, gosh, you don't have time to talk to me. But, if we can look at it and say, hey, at least there's an effort here that's being made, and I'm going to be patient with where we are in life right now. And at some point we will get back to what we need to get back to. So
that's so good. I like it.
All right. You got another one?
I do. So set and respect boundaries within your life. So you want to discuss the significance of setting boundaries to protect your marriage. Because, if one of you doesn't really have boundaries with friends or family and they're constantly on the go, going and helping everyone else or going and visiting other people and making all of these plans, a lot of times that's, I'm losing my word again. Oh my gosh. That's, okay. That's at the cost of staying connected as a married couple. There we go. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Yes, because sometimes all those things are good, but you also have to know when to say no and protect the boundaries of your marriage. That sometimes you have to say no to family, you have to say no to friends, you might have to say no to your boss. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I cannot do that, or I won't, or whatever, because that your number one relationship is your relationship with God. Number two is your spouse, and you have to protect that, and make sure that, especially in the busyness of everything, that you're saying no when you need to say no to other things going on around you, and being okay with the fact that we can't always do it all, and it's okay.
Yeah, I have a specific story about this one, and Heather knows this well, but I'll just say it again, that many, many years ago, before I became a therapist, I worked in the corporate world, and the last place of business that I worked at was really kind of adamant about staying late, about working extra, and sometimes I almost feel like it was just sort of like just to be seen, but we won't get into that. But I remember at some point I had told my boss, I said, hey, I'm super excited. My daughter's going off to college and she's moving away. And I figured, oh, he's going to be excited with me. And
right. Congratulations. This is big. This is good stuff.
Yeah. And he was excited in another way.
Oh.
Excited that I could work more and I could stay later.
Yeah.
And
he was.
That's just not my style. I've always been the type that, I might sound like Fred Flintstone for any of you that have ever seen that cartoon where the whistle blows and he is out of there. That's basically how I've treated work. It doesn't mean that I don't work my butt off from the time that I'm supposed to be there. But when the whistle blows, that's it. I'm done. and my family is most important to me. And so, yeah, that was not a fun time having to navigate that whole issue. But again, I kept my boundary there. I did not, I didn't stay later because I was asked. I just said, I'm sorry, but I just can't. My family's too important to me. So, and I get it if you're in a situation where, you're hanging on by a thread and you got to be careful about your job. I know you may not be able to say much and you might need to bend a little bit, but if you have to do that, try to figure out a way to carve out some time elsewhere if you can. So yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in on your boundaries discussion, but just thought that might be important to share.
I forgive you.
Okay. Thank you. And if you want any more on forgiveness, go back to our first 3 episodes because we talk a lot about forgiveness.
Oh my gosh. Right? Yes. So back to me.
Okay.
Okay. Just, what does the Bible say about this? Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So you want to guard your own heart. And one of those ways of guarding your heart is guarding the things that you're doing and allowing to take up space and room in your heart or in your mind or, with your physical time. You want to guard that, and you want to do the same thing with your marriage. And, like I said before, just being okay with the fact that you can't always do it all. And, especially during this time of year, there's a lot of parties going on and there's a lot of, family gatherings happening and, and it's just busy, go, 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 go. And so make sure that you're setting those boundaries. And if you do have to go to all of these parties and gatherings, maybe you say, you know what, we're going to go and make an appearance for 2 hours and then we got to go. And instead of staying for the whole 4 hours, 5 hours, stayed until the party shuts down, whatever, just think about those kinds of things when you are, going through with making plans during the busyness of your life.
Yep. Very good. Mm-hmm. Very good. Another thing that we like to do is share in spiritual activities, so to speak. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, obviously Jesus and God are very important to both of us. And I just love that we have that same kind of mindset, the same goal, the same thought process throughout the day, that we're going to do everything that we can to live a life that he's proud of, not because it's a requirement, but because it's something that we want to do. And we're always trying to listen for that voice, depending on, what we've got going on in our lives. And I know that I can count on you to do that, and you can count on me to do that. And so, but there are definitely some times where we come together in these areas. One of the things that I love on occasion is we'll do a Bible study together. Like we just completed one with a group of friends. It was a discipleship book.
Yeah, so
and
good.
Yeah, we've done it over the last couple of years, and we took breaks, in between kind of the sections. But I just thought that was super fun, just sitting and going through the chapters and asking the questions.
It really was, because sometimes, one of us would come across something that was very profound and it was like, oh man, this just really jumped out at me. This is what it means to me. Or it might even be, I read this, but I'm not getting it. Or, there were also questions in it. And I would read the question and I would say, I don't even know what that's asking. Like, I felt like I was just reading Greek and and you were able to understand Greek. So, we balanced each other that way as well while doing this Bible study. And it was so fun to read the same information and to have a good discussion about it and answer those questions together. And then, of course, meet up with the other people in the small group and bounce these thoughts off of them. And just, I don't know, there was just so much learning together and growing together. It was powerful.
Right. And speaking of Greek, wasn't that what the Old Testament was written in? Originally Greek, I think. And the New Testament was Hebrew. Is that right? I believe it is. And when it comes to Greek, the only Greek that I know and love is baklava, which is that delicious dessert.
Oh my
with the layers of phyllo dough and honey. So
and
good.
some nuts. There's
I'm
nuts
getting
in it.
hungry. Can we wrap this up here in a few minutes?
Oh my gosh,
All right.
dude.
All right. Well, let's keep on with shared spiritual activities.
Yeah.
Our daily devotion time, I really love that in the morning. We subscribe to a couple different emails. One we subscribe to together. I think it's just called the Daily Verse.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's just a real quick verse, and it's just kind of a little devotional, and I think it even has like a prayer. It has a song that goes with it.
Yeah.
It has, I think,
there's always a question. And
a question.
it's
Yes.
after one of us reads it, then we discuss the question. And
yeah.
it's good. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Sometimes there's days where it's just like, I don't have an answer for that. I don't really know or whatever. And we can just accept that from each other where one has an answer and the other doesn't. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, but it's just good. And it's a good way to start off the day too,
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the morning is why we don't have an answer yet. Would you agree?
That is true. Yeah.
Right.
The coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
Yeah.
And it's just early. It's early. But it's still so good.
Yeah,
it's rich.
Right. Now, I guess I'll kick in another promo. Speaking of that, we have a newsletter that we send out typically once a week. And usually there will be a little devotional in there, kind of like what I'm talking about. And then there'll be one question that you can answer together. So it's kind of similar to what we're talking about. And again, go to the show notes for this one. If you just go to lovehowdeep.com /9, that'll be the episode number for what we're talking about today. And praying, obviously, is another big one. It's very important. And I like to try to do more than just the prayer at dinner and, maybe a prayer in the morning. But, just anytime it hits, if you've got something that you're thankful for or something that's stressful or some issue that needs an answer, I think it's always good to come together and pray about that, right? I mean,
it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's almost like a stress reliever too. Not that I'm doing it solely for that. Obviously, the biggest reason that we want to pray is we want to connect with God.
Right.
And we want to be able to hear from him and understand what his will for our lives is. And I think that's a big reason why we pray, amongst a lot of other reasons. So I would say those are sort of the major kind of spiritual, I guess, shared activities that we do together.
I think sometimes it could just be that you turn on some worship music and you just worship together in your house. We've done that a few times. Mm-hmm. And, like just last night, we were talking about some different songs to use for an upcoming conference and, just put them on YouTube and watched them, listened to them. I think we were just having ourselves a little worship session in the living room. And it just, I don't know, it just drew me closer to God, drew me closer to you.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and it was so good. So that's another thought there of just
right.
worshiping together through some powerful music.
Yeah, and it made me think about, I don't know if we've done an episode since then, but we went to see Brandon Lake in concert. Mm-hmm. It was my first Christian worship concert ever, and I don't even really want to say how old I am, but I'm getting older. So, but it was super fun, and it was really fun to be there with you. And it's not like going to a country music concert or a rock concert. It's just there's something different about a Christian worship conference because we're listening to music, but at the same time we're worshiping God.
Yeah, it was definitely
pretty special.
Yeah, in that moment, like for me, it was more about just worshiping God rather than like, it wasn't like I was idolizing the singers that were up there. It was just like, just keep singing to me so I can worship to this because this is, this is amazing.
Yep,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, just another thing to do together.
Yeah. Yep. And we'll wrap up this section with another Bible verse, Ecclesiastes 4:12. Wait a minute, we've already done this one. I think I'm duplicating myself, but this one says, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken.
So you're not duplicating. I did look it up while you were talking earlier with the previous Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. That one is actually 9-10.
Ah.
This one is 11 and 12.
Gotcha. I knew something was wrong there. Okay, got it.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right. Yeah. You want to take us home with one final tip for how couples can stay connected in the midst of the busyness?
Yes. Be sure to show your gratitude to your spouse. And so I want you to think about the words that you say. Do you say thank you for things as simple as thank you for taking the trash out? Thank you for driving the kids to the game today. Do you say thank you for that, or is it more of like a heart of expectation? This is your job, and I expect you to do that. Well, that may be, but saying thank you and listing specifics goes a long way. Goes such a long way. And so, just those little words like that of thank you for fill in the blank can just strengthen your bond especially in the midst of the busyness. Because if you're leaving one of those notes for your spouse of what you need for the day, what they could do for you for the day or whatever, you want to make sure that you say, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Here's how it helped me. And just sharing those things. It just doesn't take much time for any of that, but it just goes such a long way. And I also want you to think about ways that you can express your gratitude through hugs and kisses and, just through physical touch. I mean, think about the love languages, words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, quality time, and acts of service. So I really kind of feel like we've kind of hit all of those through this whole podcast without even calling them that. But, this big part here is just saying thank you. And how can you do that and express how much you appreciate the other person? Leaving a note for them, sending a text to them, saying thank you so much. Just actually telling them, just, whatever it is, just reach out to them in a way that they feel loved and let them know, because like I keep saying over and over and over, it just goes such a long way. And that's so important during these busy times. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So God's will is for us to give thanks. And of course, we want to give thanks to God for life and for his salvation, for his love and mercy. But I think that this can also apply to our people that we love. Give thanks to them in all circumstances. So maybe Brian didn't quite do things the way that I had hoped he would, but did he help on something? Yes. So do I need to acknowledge that? I do need to acknowledge that and say, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let the rest go. Give thanks in all circumstances. He's over here doing thumbs up like, yeah, tell me thank you, Heather. But yeah, I mean, my point is just be sure that you're showing that appreciation. And I think all of these things can just strengthen your marriage. We always say the same thing. It's going to strengthen your marriage. It's going to bring you together.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah. It's what's important. So yeah, strengthening your marriage is probably it's really why we do what we do.
Exactly.
Is because that's really the bottom line. We want your marriage to be strengthened no matter what kind of situation or season that you find yourself in.
Absolutely.
If you're on the mountaintop or in the valley right now.
Yeah, and even if you're on the mountaintop, like that doesn't mean that you have to stop doing these things. You don't want to. You don't want to stop doing these things. You want these to be a habit so that when you are in the valley, you have habits that you can stick with. And you say, you know what, no matter what, I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to prioritize. I'm still going to set some boundaries. I'm still going to communicate well, even in the valleys, because that can help you get out of it back up to that mountaintop.
Yep. That's good. That's a good place, I think, to end, because we know you as a listener are busy, and otherwise you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast episode. So we just want to make sure, implement some of what we've talked about, and just a reminder, just invest in your relationship, because it is a reflection of your commitment to each other and to God. And we thank you so much for tuning in, and we will look forward to seeing you next time.